Understanding obstructing official business, fleeing and eluding and resisting arrest charges in Ohio. Criminal charges in Ohio's legal system can be complex and confusing for those facing them. This guide explores 3 common criminal charges that frequently arise during interactions with police: obstructing official business, fleeing and eluding, and resisting arrest. Understanding these charges, their elements, and their consequences can help anyone navigating the legal system make more informed decisions. Under Ohio Revised Code Section 2921.31, obstructing official business involves several specific legal elements that prosecutors must prove for a conviction. The prosecution must establish that the defendant performed an action or failed to perform a legally required action without proper permission or legal right. Additionally, it must be proven that the person interfered with was indeed a public official or servant, and that the defendant's actions successfully hampered or impeded their work in a meaningful way. Consider a situation where a firefighter needs to access private property to reach a neighbor's burning house. If someone blocks their path, that person would fulfill all these elements: performing an action without legal right, purposely delaying a public servant's work and preventing them from doing their job. However, exercising constitutional rights, such as remaining silent when questioned, does not constitute obstruction. The consequences for obstructing official business vary based on the circumstances. When obstruction doesn't create a risk of physical harm, it is treated as a second-degree misdemeanor, carrying potential jail time of up to 90 days and fines, reaching $750. If the obstruction creates a risk of physical harm to any person, the charge escalates to a 5th-degree felony, which can result in prison time ranging from 6 to 12 months and fines up to $2,500. Fleeing and eluding, also known as failure to comply with an order or signal of a police officer under Ohio Revised Code Section 2921.331, requires prosecutors to prove 3 key elements. They must demonstrate that the defendant was operating a motor vehicle, that a law enforcement officer gave a clear signal to stop, and that the defendant willfully fled or eluded the officer after receiving this signal. A common misconception holds that this charge only applies to dramatic high-speed chases. However, even taking an unnecessarily long time to pull over after seeing police lights could result in charges if prosecutors can prove a deliberate delay. The offense carries varying penalties depending on the circumstances. A basic violation constitutes a first-degree misdemeanor, potentially resulting in up to 180 days in jail, a $1,000 fine, and a license suspension. When the violation creates a substantial risk of serious physical harm, it becomes a 3rd-degree felony, carrying potential prison time of 9 to 36 months, fines up to $10,000, and a mandatory license suspension. Resisting arrest, defined under Ohio Revised Code, Section 2921.33, requires prosecutors to establish 4 distinct elements. The prosecution must prove that the defendant recklessly or forcefully resisted or interfered with an arrest, that the arrest was lawful, that it involved the defendant or another person, and that the defendant knew or should have known it was a law enforcement officer making the arrest. The term recklessly carries special significance, meaning acting with complete disregard for the consequences. This could include physically pulling away from an officer, going limp, or actively fighting back. However, merely questioning the arrest or verbally protesting doesn't qualify as resistance. The severity and consequences of a resisting arrest charge depend significantly on the nature of the resistance. Basic resistance without weapons or serious harm constitutes a 2nd-degree misdemeanor, potentially resulting in up to 90 days in jail and a $750 fine. However, resistance involving the use or threatened use of a deadly weapon elevates the charge to a 1st-degree felony, potentially resulting in 3 to 11 years in prison and fines up to $20,000. Each element of these charges presents opportunities for defense. In obstruction cases, defense attorneys often focus on showing that the defendant's actions didn't actually hamper the official's work, that the defendant was merely exercising constitutional rights, or that there was no intent to interfere. For fleeing and eluding charges, defenses might center on establishing that the defendant didn't realize law enforcement was signaling for them to stop, that immediate stopping wasn't safe, or that any delay wasn't willful. In resisting arrest cases, defense strategies often include challenging the lawfulness of the arrest, demonstrating excessive force by officers, or proving that the defendant's actions were involuntary reactions rather than intentional resistance. Anyone facing these charges should seek legal counsel promptly, as early intervention often leads to better outcomes. The law offices of Brian J. Smith offer free initial consultations at 800-641-1970. When consulting with an attorney, documenting all details about the incident while memories are fresh is invaluable. Important details to include are any signals or commands received from law enforcement, witness information, documentation of injuries or property damage, and the context surrounding the incident. A criminal charge does not equate to guilt. The prosecution must prove every element beyond a reasonable doubt, and valid explanations or defenses may exist for the defendant's actions. Qualified legal representation can help evaluate the specific circumstances, explain available options, and protect individual rights throughout the legal process.